All right, I think we're recording.
What's up, dude? How's it going?
What's up, Brian? So you are my guest of honor for the first Cory's Conversation podcast episodes. This is episode one. Thanks for joining me, man.
It's truly an honor. Truly an honor. I've been enjoying the Instagram stories, and so yeah, I think
Yeah,
everyone should be involved in the YouTube game. It's where all the influence is. So I'm excited to be doing it with you.
yeah. Well, I mean, just to kind of let everybody know what this came from is I'm officially unemployed right now. We've been laid off because of the coronavirus pandemic that's been spreading around, and so I'm looking for something to fill my time with, and love watching podcasts and talking to interesting people. And you're definitely at the top of my list of interesting people. If I could pick one person that I could talk to about anything, I mean, Brian and I go back. When did we meet? In 2005 in middle school.
Yeah,
But good old Ording Middle School in
or in middle
Washington
school.
State.
I felt like I felt like I was on the Bad News Bears. I got called up from C team to the B team in middle school basketball. That's probably about where my basketball career peaked.
Yeah.
A lot of velocity in my career early on there.
Yeah, and then you took off down to California, go to school down there, and ended up loving the sunshine. You're a sunshine worshiper now, and entrepreneur, and it's really cool what you've done, man. I mean, I tell people all the time, I've got this buddy. I don't know how he makes money. I couldn't tell you where his money comes from. I don't know who writes his paychecks, but he seems to be doing okay. I don't know if he deals drugs or does marketing. I think he's made a couple movies. But he's been a part of political campaigns. I mean, you are just like I could talk to you about any subject. We used to sit around in the hot tub, and I think that was before podcasts, right around podcasts were starting. If we would have had those conversations up, nobody wants to listen to 15-year-olds though. So, we'll see. But
no, dude, I really appreciate that. It's been exciting. I mean, I've had a different plan at times, and then I've changed plans, and I've one way I hope I've been able to like tell the narrative of everything I'm doing is just by having, I've had the same website the whole time. I've on my resume, it just says, Brian Harrington Consulting, and I'm a sole proprietor. And that's what I just got done talking to you about is just with everything that's happening right now, what is the reaction that small businesses are having? And so that's cause I've just been a freelancer and consultant for 6 years now. So, and honestly, to just return the compliments, I think it's sweet, what you're doing too, doing the gym stuff. And I remember we were joking, having a job is just making things happen for rich people. If you just find the people and do stuff for them. And I'm not in any way making fun of the ownership or whatever. I truly say that as not from a place of annoyance or 1% versus 99% or whatever. I genuinely, the more that I've realized that I can just be a problem solver for interesting people, the more my career has been interesting. And so I try to just come at the whole perspective of work, from that.
That's interesting, man. I mean, that's my last 3 years with Orangetheory have been that. I mean, it's been opening a business, starting a business, and solving problems and figuring it out as you go. I was a gym guy and a human physiology major, and it turned into running a business that's 8 million revenue business for a franchisee that I didn't have education in financial background, HR, that kind of stuff. Luckily, I've got my own personal CPA who I'm married to, who helps me out with some stuff. But there's a lot of just figure it out as you go and fake it till you make it kind of stuff. And it turned out to be something pretty cool. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. And hopefully we can get back to normal here pretty soon. But in the meantime, it's always, you talk about working for rich people. I mean, it's not wrong. You're working for the people that have the capital to run these businesses. But, all along while I've been doing this, it's always been in the back of my mind of how do you work for yourself, and how do you find something where you can, and that's what I've admired about you over the last 2 years is building your personal brand and building a following and figuring out ways to monetize that and allow yourself to make a living. I think that's the dream is making a living on your own dime, and you're not trading your hours for money anymore. You are using your resources and platforms and whatever it is to generate a living wage off of that. So that's
Yeah.
kind of what, that's not the point of this podcast starting, but it's right now it's just to fill my free time. And so I don't walk off a cliff, but
Right. Well, dude, because so when I've talked to other people about it, I view it as regardless of what type of work you're in. And like we make fun of influencers on like Instagram, and we make fun of people that are just talk too much about their personal brand or like go too hardcore into it. And like, you don't have to have a posting schedule. You don't have to like just make it this whole official thing. Like I look at entrepreneurs and I just look at people, workers, like as professional athletes. Like life is a game. You have a set of skills and you walk out your front door every day and you do stuff in the world. And so if you start to look at yourself as just a set of person that has skills and there's other people that are interested in your skills, you can have that like sole proprietor entrepreneur mindset in anything you're doing, regardless if you're a W-2 employee or a 1099 employee or a student or, whatever. So to me, like that's what like brand means, is just by, being yourself and like trying to get better.
Yeah. I mean, you're a guy, I think that goes along with kind of my philosophy is I always want to be as versatile as possible and be able to do anything. And I think sometimes that is sacrificed being really good at like one thing. So how do you think about that is it better to be the all-rounded? I coach high school football. I tell my football players all the time, like, yeah, you should play basketball. You should run track. You should do anything else, but go play baseball and eat hot dogs like I did in the middle between innings. But being versatile, you're going to be able to do all these things. But, I know people have different perspectives. Are you somebody who want to focus on one thing and get really good at that one thing and own that product?
No, like I on that discussion, like I'm absolutely in like the jack of all trades, like have a diverse set of things that like you're good at. And it comes down to really simply like the versatility and flexibility. And I personally think it makes life more interesting. And also like if we were to like in the current situation, like it prepares you for uncertainty better. Having a large tool set of these are the things I enjoy doing and am willing to do, like I have no doubt tomorrow that if, you're another buddy from high school called you up and said, hey, we need like day laborers for me to flip this house right now, that you would show up with like whatever hammer tool bag you own or borrow it and show up and start building a house. Like I have no doubt that like, number one, because your ego isn't whatever to like, oh no, I'm only a personal trainer. Like I'm not a day laborer or whatever. No, like, and two, like you're strong enough to do it. And so that like, that's cool. And you recognize like the power of real estate and the power of any of that stuff. Like, so that like, it takes a flexibility and humility to be willing to do any of that. Like, dude, I just released a video about how like, I think if people need money, like go donate plasma. You can make like $400 a month donating plasma.
Yeah.
And listen to a podcast while you're like doing that so that you can like get your brain smarter while you're like making a little bit of money, while you're also saving people's lives because they're going to make medicine off of it. Like I'm just kind of like, I'm kind of over like trying to super micromanage my career that tiny to where I'm not willing to still just like do random stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I've been following all of my, our coaches specifically on Instagram and that kind of stuff and figuring out what they're doing. They're all applied for unemployment. But they're all kind of in the same boat. They're trying to figure out what they can do. Do they start doing online training platforms for people at home? Do they, I've had a number of them want to come now, try and be on the podcast and talk about things that interest them. Obviously that's not making money. I'm not paying them. I'll pay them LaCroix and toilet paper, but
like, so to go down that rabbit hole, like attention is influence. Attention is currency. I mean, and not to super overdo the like analogy. I understand you can't pay your rent with views and likes and like whatever. And like, we can all get caught up in this mindset of, oh, the views matter or whatever. But no, like I just made another video about how I met my realtor on YouTube. she has like 100, 200 views across her YouTube channel, but then it led to like a gigantic transaction, and it led to her, like, she made the videos 1 and 2 years ago, and then it led to a transaction that happened like last month and put money in her pocket. Like, and she probably had friends looking at her dumb for making, you know, silly videos or whatever, but then it led to transaction like, you know, 12, 18 months later. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. And that's what I mean about if you're just an interesting person, like all these influencers, all these people on Instagram are just people. Like, there's no reason why it can't be you. And there's no reason why you have to hit some like $100,000 level or 100,000 follower level before you're an interesting person. No, like you already are.
I wonder about, you know, I think about the people that have been so successful in like this new social media age. It's been going on for 15, 20 years. The people that are most successful on that feel like genuine people, and people that build their brand and have, you know, there's obviously probably a ton of those influencers that have that kind of fake mindset, but you look at people like, you know, like your Joe Rogans, you know, people that they have a connection with their audience, and people trust that they're going to give them good information. Because I think we've just lost trust in like our institutions. We don't trust.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the trust of like network news these days, no matter what side you're on?
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. And then even, and I'll take it all the way to the level of like politicians and like people running for office don't feel interesting. Like, they don't pass the very initial test of like, do I want to have a beer, or do I want to have dinner with this person? Do I want to listen to this person on a 2-hour podcast? No.
Yeah.
I don't even want to listen to him do a 5-minute TV interview. So why would I want to listen? Why would I want to listen to them do a 2-hour, you know, 2-hour long interview? And so, and that's like, in like the marketing coaching and stuff I do is like, it's just fundamentally that. Like, I don't care if you're selling, you know, insurance or gym memberships or whatever. Like, just be interesting, be a regular person. That's where it comes back to like the attention is currency. And so it's,
not to get too far down like the political rabbit hole, but that's what you and I think you know, you were, if I can speak for you, you're a more conservative person. I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm generally fiscally conservative and socially liberal. But we both gravitated towards a candidate towards the start of this election cycle in Andrew Yang. And because we just thought it was interesting. Like, he went on podcasts, he talked to people in long form discussion. You actually knew, and even like a guy like Bernie Sanders, who you look at him in like news clips and you're like, why is this old guy yelling at me all the time? And then you watch like a long form podcast. I watched him on Rogan's podcast and a few others, and he's a normal guy. Like, he's got ideas, but it's almost like he builds his platform around being this, like, we need to tear everything down and start it all over, and those little news clips. That's not the real guy, at least once you see somebody for more than 5, 10, 20, 30 minutes. You can go, oh yeah, he's got ideas. He's open to suggestion. I think that's the biggest thing, is you just can't, I mean, if you think you're right, you got to have some of that where you always think you're right to get in that political arena, I would assume. But you also have to have a bit of, well, maybe I'm wrong, or maybe somebody else has a better idea about this, and be able to audible.
Yeah. There's just flexibility. Like,
I keep taking sips off of my mug here, and I keep getting sad because I'm supposed to be on a plane right now to Vegas to go. Brian and I were both heading down to Vegas to go watch the NCAA basketball tournament, and that's obviously canceled. And so my Zags, who were likely to have a number 1 seed, are at home. I watched some of that, and you feel for like the guys that we had seniors that, like, grad transfers that came from other schools that had never participated in the NCAA tournament, transfer specifically to Gonzaga because they knew they were going to get a shot in the dance. And now they're going home and probably not going to have an opportunity to play overseas or at the next level. And you're like, gosh, man, it's just, and you get it. But, you know, that's another thing you talk about, like the impact of this coronavirus stuff. A lot of college athletes earn NBA and overseas and professional playing time in the NCAA tournament. You can see a guy that has a great NCAA tournament, and he's going to shoot up draft boards. And so now you look at a guy like, for Gonzaga, Killian Tilly, who has been injured, fighting injuries for his whole career, and now he's just starting to kind of get back. But now he's at the point where he didn't have the opportunity to showcase on this national stage of the tournament. I wonder what his draft stock looks like, and he could go from. He might be a bottom of the second round. He could have been a first round pick. That's millions of dollars in the NBA. Right. So like that's affecting.
Oh, dude, totally. And like, I mean, look, I don't know if this is like a radical opinion or insensitive or whatever, but like, I hope we see lawsuits. Like, I hope we see lawsuits of small businesses and individuals that were impacted by this, because like, I disagree with the way that like leadership at like the local and federal level have like reacted. And I don't believe, I think it's weird. I think everyone's doing a weird follow the leader thing right now. And no one is like double checking at their level if like, okay, is this the right decision for like the people that I'm a community leader of? It feels weird to me.
Well, we're all creatures of consistency and following what's going on. I mean, I remember in college in a Psych 101 class, there was a thought experiment where they had people in a room and everybody was in on it except this one guy, and they're all sitting down in chairs, and 29 people stand up, and he, who isn't in on the experiment, stands up.
Yeah.
Just naturally, because you don't want to be, I don't know, whatever the biological mechanism is, but you don't want to stand out. You want to fit into the crowd. You don't want to seem vulnerable. Why is that person doing something different than everybody else? Everybody would sit down. He would sit down. Everybody would scratch their head. He would start scratching his head. And it's just like a weird, weird thing that we're pack animals in that way. We want to follow the thing. You see people go out and buying things at stores and filling their carts, and everyone's like, "Oh, we need to go do that because we're going to be out of toilet paper too."
Right. Dude. And so I've wondered about this too, because like, I like being the contrarian. I like having the opposite view. And it's almost like but once you start doing it, you almost get addicted to being that one guy then that like stays seated. So like in that example, okay, so 29 people stand up and you get addicted to sitting down, and you're like, no, like I'm going to stay seated because like you guys are the, the followers or whatever. Or like, and that's what I think. So when I watch Joe Rogan sometimes, of like, shoot, what's his name? Bravo, right? Is just the other crazy guy that joins him.
Oh, the conspiracy theorist.
Yeah. he is addicted to being the guy that takes the other side of the bet. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the topic is. He's going to
go the other way.
And so that, like, it's like,
I think most comedians are that way. Most comedians are people that they're trying to stir the pot, and they're trying to find the opposite of what the social norm is. So,
And I have to gut check myself sometimes to be like, look, like, I'm not like, am I honestly, like, I'm not trying to be annoying. Like, I'm honestly not trying to be annoying. I just don't see it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
As you can see, my dogs are trying to chime into the podcast here. They're excited the mailman's here. I'm still getting mail, but yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I mean, you see people want to be contrarians. It's what's the Kanye West line? Try transitioning from fitting in to standing out. Everybody wants to fit in to a certain extent, and then you want to stand out. That's the only way you kind of advance through anything, is standing out and being different than people. So yeah. It's interesting. So how's the new house, man? You just bought a new house in San Diego. All right, the dogs are fired up. We're gonna take this podcast outside, I think. Let's move it out.
Perfect.
But man, how's the new place?
It's awesome. I love it. Like, I'm thankful to have a house. We live in Anaheim, but yeah, my wife and I are first-time homeowners, and yeah, it's cool. It's cool. We have a downstairs bedroom with its own entrance that I'm working on fixing up to rent out. So a skill that I'm trying to get better at is just, normal repairman stuff that I, didn't listen to my dad enough learning how to do. And very simple stuff like my fan chain is like really bothering me right now because it keeps breaking every time I pull it off. So I'm working on doing that. We're working on some basic patching. The shower door needs to be resealed so water stops coming out of it. So just very basic things, but they're kind of like stacking up, and like I'm getting intimidated. But and with this stuff now, like I don't know when I'm going to be able to rent it out. So I don't have that like sense of urgency of like the money's right around the corner, because it's not right around the corner anymore. I don't know how I'm supposed to like get it rented out right now.
Yeah, that's a good point. You got to follow the YouTube dad, man. That's how I figured out. We had a funny story with our water heater. We had just bought our house here in Washington, and within 3 months, water heater shuts off. Middle of December, my wife needs to go to work every day. She needs to look presentable and shower. And I'm like, don't worry, I'll fix it. I'll figure out how to do this. We had a guy come out and quote us like $3,000 to replace this hot water tank. Yeah. And I'm like, no. This is don't worry, Cory's going to fix this. And about 4 days later, when she is just furious that she hasn't taken a shower, I'm boiling water on the stove because we have a gas stove and we could still at least get her hot water that way. But turned out to be $100 part that finally showed up from Amazon, and just YouTubing it and figured out how to fix it and got it in. So, I mean, that's been, I mean, you can teach yourself a lot of stuff with, you know, I bought a motorcycle recently and taught myself how to, you know, how to change the oil in that. Growing up, I didn't have, you know, a lot of people that taught me, you know, that kind of fix it stuff. And so, it was kind of teach yourself and figure it out. So,
yeah. No, that's for sure. Like, what I'm learning through home ownership.
Yeah. So it's a constant battle, man. I mean, we're now in the point where we're talking, we love our neighborhood so much. We're talking about putting like a second story on our house, which turns out to be a pretty expensive task. It's not like changing out the water heater valve. So we'll see how that goes. But we've done a number of projects with changing floors out and you know,
the side of your island, right?
Oh yeah, we did. We did some kind of reclaimed wood projects, and in our bathroom we did some reclaimed wood stuff, and it was all just, I mean, guess and check, experiment kind of stuff. But I've got a number of friends that, you know, one friend in particular that has started just buying properties, and they've been flipping them. Living, you know, they just recently bought a duplex, lived in the bottom unit until they fixed up the top unit. Now they're renting out the top unit, fixing the bottom unit, and now they're gonna sell the whole unit or just keep renting it out and buy on to the next property. So, you know, that's a cool way to kind of teach yourself how to do stuff. So
totally, I love that. There's been the one real estate channel on YouTube I love is Meet Kevin, MEET Kevin, Meet Kevin. He's just a guy down here in Ventura and owns like 8 single family homes. He's a realtor, but he just like talks about how to like take advantage of like different financing. Cause like your primary residence financing is like the most like lenient financing you'll ever get as far as like low money down, I guess. It's just like what people always talk about. And so just taking advantage of that to build wealth.
That's what I've been told. It was funny when this guy was talking about Grant, he bought their duplex. It was middle of November, and they needed somebody to come out and paint it so that they could qualify because they couldn't have any exposed wood for their FHA loan. And he was getting quotes for guys to come out and paint in the middle of November at 10, 15 grand. And he's like, hey man, I can't do it. If I pay you a couple $100, I'm like, dude, you buy me a case of beer and I'll come paint. And turned out to be more of a project than I thought it was. But find good friends. That's if you're taking anything away, find good friends and build up favors and do things for people, because you're going to need favors. That's you got to diversify your friend portfolio. So you have not everybody that, you know, you got a bunch of IT friends and nobody knows how to fix a doorknob. That's when you get in trouble.
Right. Absolutely. That's how my roommates in college were. Just, I loved how each one of them was so different. Like one guy he was able to like cook breakfast, install a keg in the fridge, and like helped me build a wall from my own room, like while fixing someone's bike, like just all within like back-to-back Saturdays. I'm just like, dude,
because value.
The more, and I think the more projects you do get more confident, and you just enjoy doing it. You get over because there's also a big hump to just starting.
Oh, I think with me, it's like a fear of, especially once you get in, I got into like fixing TVs just for kind of giggles. We had TVs go out like in our studios, and I was like, I'm going to try and, you know, they were saying, you just have to throw them away. I'm like, I'll mess with them a little bit. 65-inch TVs that are working just fine now because but the scary thing is like, I don't want to take it apart and break it. Right. That's always the thing. But with something like that, it was like, I'm not going to break it any more than it already is. I might as well see what I can do. And then you start building confidence of like, I know where that goes and that kind of stuff. But man, well, this is fun. I think I'm going to have to build like I'm going to have to clean out the garage, and I'm going to have to convert that into like the podcast studio so I don't have dogs bark and lock the dogs out.
You have to, and then you build your background and have all your Gonzaga stuff and random stuff. Dude, I have a funny sports thing we could end on.
All right, man.
What did you see? How there's a group of Dodgers fans that are trying to sue the Houston Astros to get their World Series expenses back. And I think they have a case. When you buy you buy a World Series ticket, when you buy a Major League Baseball ticket, what are you doing? You're buying a set of rules that this entertainment is supposed to happen under. When the set of rules was not followed, they bought a good that they did not receive. Like, and I think they have a credible case. Like, I think the Houston Astros should pay those World Series expenses for those Dodgers fans.
I think I don't think the punishment has been hard. I mean, I'm a baseball guy. I played baseball, talk baseball. I got a bunch of friends that do baseball podcasts, and they've obviously been, they're hearing it from the fans, but what have the sanctions really been? I mean, they didn't strip their World Series. They didn't strip the MVP from Altuve, who very clearly, you look at his home and away splits of what he was hitting at home and what he was hitting away. It's unreal. It's like 400 to 200 batting average. Like, so how do you not take that? But I think I heard that on the news. The Dodgers fans are trying to do that, and I think it's interesting. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know what they have, but it's definitely something they should be. I'm a Mariners fan, and we played them. We're in the same division. We played them a number of times, and every time I went to a game last year at home, it felt like we were at least in it with them, or we were competing. And then you go down the road and they're just smacking our pitchers around, and you're like, man. But start banging on that trash can. Yep. If anything's come from it, it's great comedic content of banging on trash cans, and it's like here comes a change up, and you've got the da 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 da. Yeah, it's good stuff. Well, that's good, man.
Hopefully things get back to normal by baseball season.
Yeah, I mean, we had tickets to opening day for the Mariners. Brandon and I, we go to, this would have been our 4th consecutive opening day where we ride the Sounder up and we spend the day in Seattle and go to opening day, and we're not doing that. So I think we're still going to go to the opening day whenever it is. We got to keep that tradition alive. But we're all just kind of in limbo right now. That's one of my favorite memes that have come out of this too, with all the guys watching sports. It's like, well, I've been no sports for 5 days. I found out my wife's favorite color is yellow. Who the hell likes yellow?
Oh man.
Well, hey man, I think that's a good wrap on podcast episode number 1 of Cory's Conversation. So Brian Harrington, where can people follow you on Instagram, Twitter, all that fun stuff?
Yeah. So it's just Brain, like in your head, Harrington across everything. And then my website is brianharrington.org.
Well, cool. Appreciate it, man. Hopefully I'll have you back on soon, and that's a wrap.
Absolutely.
Thanks, man.